Hey, there's a cat. There's a cat going ape. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube. This is part 2 of the diet break. I showed you a full day of eating and it was going for forever. So I decided to split this into 2 videos, and this is the second video, and I'm just gonna jump straight in and explain diet breaks. Everything you need to know, how to figure out your own, when to pick one, if you need one, if you need to stop the diet. So let's jump into that now and enjoy. Is there something in my eye? Oh my god, I think it's like living with a cat. There's like hair flying everywhere and I think there's something in my eye. Ugh! Oh no, I made it worse. Oh, this is going really well. If I start winking throughout this, I'm not winking at you, I just have shit in my eye that I can't get out and I can't be bothered stopping this to go and check in the mirror. I'm really tired. Diet breaks. I'm just gonna do a wrap up about like how do you know when to diet break and how much should you be diet breaking on, and what's the purpose of a diet break and how do you choose when to implement them essentially. So I'm in a 4-day diet break. There's just fucking cat hair flying everywhere. I know you can't see it on the camera, but you know, it's in my eye. It's pissing me off. The diet break's meant to put me in a better mood and I feel really irritated today. Diet breaks. All right, I'm gonna start with what a diet break is. So you will hear the terms diet break and refeed. So a diet break is a longer version of a refeed essentially. So with diet breaks, you're going to be taking it anywhere from 3 days to 14 days. So you can take quite long diet breaks. And with refeeds, it's typically like a 24-hour, 48-hour, you know, couple of days kind of thing. So both of them involve you eating back at your new maintenance calories and increasing the carbohydrate component of your macros. Refeeds are really good as more like a psychological break. So if you're feeling diet fatigue, if you're just kind of struggling with your motivation to stick to the diet, you're feeling quite restricted with your food choices, it can be like a pause on the diet where of course you won't be losing weight because you're eating at your maintenance calories, but it just gives you a bit of a like sigh of relief from dieting, because if you've been dieting for quite a while in a deficit, it can definitely take its toll on your energy, on your fatigue, on your mood. And then the diet break is something we take for the psychological relief, but also physiological relief. I'm going to cover when and why we would take a diet break and what to look for to know to make that decision for yourself if you're self-coached, and then how long to go for and what the impacts will be on your physique. So the reason I am taking a diet break right now is multifaceted. So it is both the physiological and the psychological effects. So I have been in a plateau for about 3 weeks now. If I'm being 100% honest, figuring out whether to take a diet break does require you to be pretty much 100% adherent with your diet. You guys know I've been really compliant with the diet and sticking to the calories. However, I have been baking for the Train with Soph recipe book. If I'm 100% honest with myself, I would say I was probably must have been exceeding my calories on the days I was baking, because I was snacking on the food that I was baking to make sure it tasted good, and also because when it's in front of me it's really hard not to. So that was, you know, a fault on my part. And it was quite calorie dense foods that add up quickly. So things like nuts and almond meal in a lot of the baked recipes can add up really quickly. So I think I'm in a combination of plateau, water retention, inflammation from my period, where I'm at in my cycle, and exceeding my calories to a point where I was maintaining my weight instead of dropping. So I wasn't in a diet break. I wasn't in a deficit. So does that count as a diet break or refeed? Not really, because whilst my calories were higher, I wasn't getting the extra calories from carbohydrates. Now let's jump into that. Pick it up, so pick up the pace. So let's chat about the therapeutic effects of increasing your carbohydrates to your new maintenance. And what I'm gonna do, I know a lot of people are like, what's new maintenance? So when we've been dieting for a prolonged period of time, whether that's like 4 weeks plus, I've been going for 7 weeks before I jumped into the diet break. You do experience the downregulation of your metabolism. Your calories that you start on, say we started on 2000 calories here and you've been dieting on 1500 calories, and I've explained this in a previous video about metabolism, but as we diet, our body has this self-defense system it uses to try and protect the body from famine, essentially. So it kicks into gear and it brings your metabolism, or the rate at which you metabolize, lower, so your BMR essentially becomes lower, so you require less energy to continue to operate your aliveness, like being alive, your systems, your like pumping blood and breathing and oxygen and all that stuff. It brings that down, which means your deficit that you began with, the 500 calorie deficit from 2000 calories to 1500 calories, is now going to be lower. So say your new maintenance is like 1800 calories or something like that, and you're eating at 1500 calories, you're in a 300 calorie deficit versus a 500 calorie deficit that you were in at the start. So your new maintenance calories would be 1800. I'm not saying that's not like a set formula. It's not like, oh, you were on 2000 calories and now your maintenance is 1800 calories. It depends on a number of factors, like how aggressive you've gone, where you started, how high your NEAT is, how long you've been dieting for, and a bunch of factors. But I am going to put a little equation down in the comments box that you can use and plug in your own data to figure out an approximate number for where your new maintenance calories are, and they're the calories at which you will take your refeed day or your diet break on. So when I started, I think my maintenance calories were around like 1900, maybe even 1800, like they were quite low, because I did do a period of eating at maintenance and I gained, and that maintenance was like 2000 calories, which is sad, but that's just the point at which my metabolism was at. I am taking this diet break on 1700 calories. I have been dieting on 1400 calories, but 1700 calories feels like a lot when you've been dieting on 1400, and even days I've had like 1200 calories. So I am loving life. Like I'm full. I'm not like, I do like feel a bit hungry after my meals, just because it's the diet break is like kicking in, getting my hormones to re-regulate already, like upregulate from where they were at. But yeah, it's 1700 is great. I'm loving life. It's so much food compared to what I'm used to in this diet. Enough about that. Let's talk about the physiological effects of a diet break now. All right, so certain fat loss hormones such as our leptin and our thyroid functions can be repaired. Leptin is really important relating to our energy expenditure. So when we're dieting, you will notice that your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, goes down. So things like right now my posture is quite straight. If you're dieting and you just kind of slump because it's so much energy to keep yourself up. I talk a lot with my hands. I'm a very expressive person, but when I diet, I probably use my hands a bit less. When I'm going for my daily walks, I'm probably just like dragging your feet a little bit. So whether like you're aware of it or not, those things happen, and that's just something that our body is very clever, and our body will try and conserve as much energy as possible to prevent us from going into famine. So it preserves the energy and stops us from doing things like that. The diet break will help to increase our NEAT again, which is awesome, which means more energy expenditure, which means more calories burnt and contributes to our overall calorie deficit. With increased carbohydrates, we have better anabolic signaling, so that is going to help us with building muscle. Improvements to our insulin, importantly improvements to our recovery, our ability to recover from our training sessions, improves our fatigue, so we're going to sleep better. If we're recovering better from our sessions, we're going to be sleeping better, we're going to be feeling more recovered. Our fatigue isn't going to be as high, like physical fatigue and also dieting fatigue. Helps with water retention and our sex hormones. So things to look out for to decide whether you need to take a diet break or not. Often you can just, if it's more like a psychological break, you can just take a 1 to 2 day refeed and that might be enough. But as I mentioned earlier, diet breaks have more of the physiological benefits. So you do need to take these for like a minimum of 3 days in order to get the benefits of increasing your calories and your carbohydrates to help with all the hormones and the things that I mentioned mentioned earlier. So things to look out for if you have hit a plateau, and you've hit that plateau whilst being adherent and compliant, you know, at least 90% to your calories, your steps, and your training. You're doing everything right, like you're managing your stress, you're getting lots of sleep, you're drinking lots of water, you're training hard, you're hitting your step target every single day, and of course you are sticking to your calories and your macros, and you are eating foods that don't trigger any sort of bloating. So if you can truthfully answer yes to that, then the next question would be, were there any changes other than the scale? So were there changes to your images? Were there changes to how your clothes were fitting? Because the scale doesn't always give us the entire picture. So it is important to track your progress using other means such as photos, tape measurements, how your clothes are fitting. If there were changes in that, then I would probably stick to the diet for longer, because, you know, give the scale time to catch up to the visuals, because that still means that it's working. But again, if you need like the mental break from dieting, maybe take a couple of days of refeeds. The next question would be, if you are in a plateau, do you have room in your calories or your energy to drop calories and or increase your energy expenditure? So are you able to add in an extra session, or add in more daily steps to your cardio, or decrease your calories to increase the deficit and get on top of that metabolic downregulation, which I spoke about earlier? If you're able to do that, you can run lower calories for a while and see how your body responds. And again, if you just want the break, you can take a refeed. That's for the psychological factors. Also, if you feel like you're feeling really restricted and potentially on the verge of like binge or something, then refeeds can work really well to prevent that and increase your motivation and your adherence. Just remember, guys, when you take diet breaks and refeeds, you are pausing your progress. So you're not going to be losing fat, or you're not going to be losing weight in that period. So don't be disheartened when you see that on the scales you're not dropping, and potentially the scales are going up, because the more carbs we eat, the more water we retain. So it can just show up a bit higher in the scales, but you will have a drop once you get back into your deficit. And then the next question is physical or psychological stress an issue? If it is, then yes, I would take a diet break. So now that we've figured out whether we should be diet breaking or not, you know how to figure out your calories for the diet break. You're pretty much just going to be adding the calories to carbohydrates. We can take our diet break. The other things to consider that I look at with clients when, you know, they're in a plateau and they're doing everything right, I'll ask a series of questions about their biofeedback. So the things that I'll ask them are, how's your appetite? Like, has it decreased, increased? Where's it sitting? What's your libido like? Are you feeling DTF, or are you like totally not interested in sex? How is your energy? How is your recovery from training? Are you still improving your strength or maintaining the same weights and reps? And how are you feeling and pulling up after those sessions? Yeah, so they're all the questions that I'll ask, and if most of those are like no answers, then that's also a pretty good indication that you've had a bit of downregulation with those hormones, the key fat loss hormones. So it may be a good time to take a diet break. So diet break, typically, like, how long to diet break for? I use a minimum of 3 days. I'm taking a 4-day diet break. It's going to be a really good time to psychologically know that I have that amount of time to, you know, eat a few different foods, have a bit of a break from the diet mentality, get more energy, sleep better, have improved NEAT and better training sessions. So I already had my training session yesterday and already felt like better energy, better strength, ability to increase my reps for the same weight. So they're really good signs that the carbs are working for me with my energy. But yeah, like, people can take like 7-day diet breaks and 14-day diet breaks, but you're kind of just prolonging the deficit and the diet. It's kind of like, diet breaks are awesome and it's really good to take them, but that's just what they do. They prolong the diet. Like, even though you're not in a deficit, you're still in diet mentality, and that's just like, you know, that can be really taxing mentally. So you kind of just want to get the diet done. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend, like, I would probably recommend like max 5 days for a diet break if you're thinking about taking one, unless you're like totally messed up and you have like serious downregulation and you're whacked, like sick and no energy and just moody, like, you know, maybe take it for a bit longer, but play it by ear. Do at least 3 days, see how you're feeling, and then reassess the situation. Also, if you're in that state, I don't know if I'd really advise dieting anyway. So some coaches will like pre-plan diet breaks and try and stay ahead of it. There's like, you know, you can diet for 14 days and then take a 3-day diet break, or you can diet for, you know, 10 days and like 7 days. It just depends. Like, some people have like really efficient and inefficient metabolisms, and what I mean by that is some people's bodies will adapt really quickly to the lower calories and bring their baseline calories down lower really quick, which means you have to keep taking calories out to ensure that that's a deficit. So a tactic for people who, like, if that's the case, if that's you, is to take frequent diet breaks and pre-plan them in. And it's also like a good psychological thing. If you know, oh cool, I've just got to smash out this deficit for 14 days and then I know I've got a 3-day diet break, it can work really well for motivation and adherence. So it depends on your psychology as a person, but the trade-off is that the diet is going to take longer. So that's one of the drawbacks of diet breaks. Another drawback is when you're dieting, you might find it easier to stick to your calories and not go over, and then as soon as the diet breaks are brought in, it's kind of like you bring in different foods and maybe you're eating more stuff that you haven't eaten during the diet or the deficit part, and you feel like, you know, you've unleashed the beast within, and it's like, oh my god, all this food, taste, sensation, like I've been missing this, and you can't stop. So it can kind of encourage binging, which isn't great. To mitigate that, I really suggest keeping your diet habits exactly the same when you are in a diet break. So eat at the same times, the same number of meals, the same frequency, and eat the same foods, only because obviously, like, if you were dieting and you're eating voluminous foods like me, where it's basically just protein and vegetables, and you've got to be bringing in to make up, like I had 200 grams of carbs for my diet break day 1, you know, you'll be bringing in things that take up those calories more. So potatoes, rice, wraps, bread, yeah, just like your higher calorie carbohydrate foods. I would only really be bringing, like, introducing like 2 or 3 new foods. I wouldn't be going ham, being like, yes, I've dieted all this time and now I can have all this food, like I can bring in all of these like Halo Top ice creams and like, I don't know, just like all this wild food that you haven't been eating, because your body is probably going to react to that. Like, for starters, personally, I react really badly to Halo Top and shit that has like sweeteners in it, and then that's kind of just going to skew the data that you're going to collect on this diet break. Someone asked me on my Insta stories, they were like, oh, do you eat like treat food or cheat meal style food on your diet break? And I was like, you know what, I should start calling it a deficit break, because it isn't a break from the diet. Like, you're not like, cool, fuck the diet, I don't care anymore, I'm just going to eat all the donuts over here and make it fit my calories. That really defeats the purpose of what the break is. Like, yes, it is a psychological break from the restriction, but you still have to make decisions that support your goal. Like, it's still part of the plan and part of the process. So don't go messing up your process by binging on shit food in your diet break, not getting enough protein, and just filling your body with foods that aren't going to contribute to better energy or better sleep or better anything, which is what the diet break is about. Like, it really just defeats the purpose. So I've literally been eating like the same kind of foods as you'll see in my full day of eating, and I've just added in some staple carbs that I know don't react with me in terms of like bloating and digestive discomfort, and yeah, that kind of basic stuff, so that the scale isn't too like, whoa, crazy from the diet break. So finally, I'm just going to talk about what you may notice during your diet break. You may potentially be a little bit watery in your body, just because carbohydrates do retain more water per gram compared to the other macros. Obviously, you're eating more food, you're getting it from carbs, so more water. The scale may go up. It's not because you're putting on fat. You're still either just, you know, slightly in deficit calories or just at your new maintenance. So you can't gain fat if you're at maintenance or deficit calories, only if you're in a surplus. So don't freak out if you jump on the scales and you're like, oh my god, why is it going up? This is fucked. It's like people get scared to eat more food. It's literally like 3 or 5 days, more food, all the energy, it's gonna be great. But yeah, you may notice yourself being a bit watery, but you might also notice that you get, because if you've been depleting carbs or not eating so many carbs day to day, your body will just be like suck up those carbs and fill out and fill the muscle bellies. So you might notice more definition. I definitely did yesterday, and I think I did today as well. I filmed a few exercises and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like seeing more definition in my body, which is great. The more you kind of have your diet break, the more that may fade just because you're getting like more carbs than your body needs, and you get this like spill effect where it spills out, you know, circulates in the body, makes you look a bit watery. Your energy should improve, your sleep should improve, your training performance should improve. So all these markers should be going up, and then you should be feeling really motivated to get back into the diet once you've finished the diet break. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you picked up heaps of info on diet breaks. If you have any questions, pop them down in the comments below. I'll be back with another video really soon, and hopefully I'll be looking real shredded. I'll see you guys next time. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel because it supports me. I always do this weird like heart fist bump thing at the end. It's weird, but I do it. Roll with it. Turn notifications on. You guys are loving the diet series, so make sure you don't miss those. Comment any questions, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you back here next week, or even sooner than that, who knows, for another video. Mwah.